What if your home in Antalya gave you the space of a private estate, the comfort of a luxury hotel, and your own private pool, all in one property? Today I'm taking you inside a modern villa in Döşemealtı with 360 square meters of interior space on a 490 square meter plot. 4 in-suite bedrooms, a 65 square meter private pool, a sauna, a Turkish bath, and a full smart home infrastructure. But this video isn't just a property tour. I will also explain what makes Döşemealtı attractive for people moving to Antalya, who this type of villa is actually suitable for, and what you should look at before buying a luxury home here. And before we start, if you are considering buying a home, selling a property, or moving to Antalya, feel free to get in touch with me. Every week, I speak with people just like you who are trying to understand the Antalya market, compare different areas, and figure out which property actually makes sense for their lifestyle and budget. So if you are planning to move to Antalya, don't hesitate to reach out. You will find my contact information in the description, and I'm always happy to help you understand your options before you make a decision. Now let's take a closer look at this villa. First, let's talk about where is Döşemealtı. Let's start with the location, because when you are buying a villa in Antalya, the property itself is only part of the decision. Döşemealtı is one of the areas I recommend buyers look at when they want something different from the typical coastal apartment lifestyle. You are moving away from the dense urban environment of central Antalya into a much more spacious, low-density residential setting. And that is one of the biggest attractions here. You can have a large private garden, a private swimming pool, multiple bedrooms, parking, and significantly more living space than you would typically get for the same budget in the more central coastal districts. At the same time, you are still in the Antalya metropolitan area. So, for someone who wants Antalya's climate and lifestyle but doesn't necessarily need to live right next to the beach, Döşemealtı can be a very interesting option. And this is an important distinction. Döşemealtı is not the same lifestyle as Lara, Konyaaltı, or the city center. If your priority is walking from your front door to the beach, restaurants, cafes, and a busy urban environment, there are other areas that may suit you better. But if your priority is space, privacy, tranquility, and a larger family home, this is exactly the type of location you should investigate. Now let's talk about the villa. The villa sits on a 490 square meter plot and offers approximately 360 square meters of enclosed living space. That is a substantial amount of space. And when you are comparing properties in Antalya, do not just look at the number of bedrooms. Ask yourself, how much usable living space do I actually have? How large is the plot? Do I have outdoor space? Do I have privacy? And does the property work for my family on a day-to-day basis? Here, the answer is clearly aimed at buyers who want a large private residence rather than a standard apartment. The villa has 4 bedrooms, all with in-suite bathrooms, plus a stylish living room. That makes it particularly interesting for families. It also could work well for someone who regularly has guests, because each bedroom can function almost like a private suite. And that is something I think foreign buyers sometimes underestimate. When you are moving permanently to Antalya, you may suddenly find that friends and family are visiting much more often. Having 4 in-suite bedrooms gives you a lot more flexibility than a typical 3-bedroom property. And one of the first things you will notice when you see the interior is the sense of space. The villa has 3.5 meter ceiling height, which make a significant difference to the feeling of the property. High ceilings allow the rooms to feel more open, brighter, and more spacious. The main living area is designed around large windows, bringing in plenty of natural light and creating a strong connection between the interior and the outdoor areas. There is also a separate kitchen, rather than an open-plan kitchen. Now, this comes down to personal preference. Some buyers love open-plan living, others, particularly families who cook frequently, prefer having a separate kitchen because it keeps cooking smells and kitchen activity away from the main living space. And this villa also includes a dedicated pantry, which is another practical feature that you don't always find in modern properties. There is also a separate laundry room. Again, these aren't necessarily the features that look most impressive in a short property video, but when you actually live in a house, these are the things that make a difference. Now let's talk about probably one of the biggest highlights of this property. The private swimming pool is approximately 65 square meters. And this isn't simply a basic rectangular pool. The property description specifies a jacuzzi area, waterfall feature, and hot water system. So you are getting an outdoor space designed much more like a private resort environment. And if you are buying a villa in Antalya, I think this is one of the questions you should always ask yourself. How much will I actually use the outdoor space? Because Antalya's climate makes outdoor living a major part of the lifestyle. A private pool isn't just something that looks good in a listing. If you live here, you can potentially use it for a large part of the year. The property also has approximately 100 square meters of a garden with an automatic smart irrigation system. There is also an outdoor storage area, and that is another practical feature. Garden equipment, bicycles, pool equipment, tools, outdoor furniture, all of these things need somewhere to go. A beautiful villa without adequate storage can become surprisingly inconvenient. Now let's move to the details that tell us more about the quality level of the construction. The villa uses 120 by 120 centimeter Kütahya ceramic tiles and first-class parquet flooring. The underfloor heating system is Austrian made. The plumbing uses Gruhe products. The windows are from Rihau, a German manufacturer, and the exterior paint is from Jotun. These brand names may not mean much if you are simply looking at the property from a distance. But when you are buying a high-value property, this is exactly the kind of information you should be asking about. The construction systems and materials behind the walls matter too. And then we come to one of the more unusual features of this villa. It has its own private Turkish bath, a hammam, as well as a sauna. For someone moving to Turkey from abroad, this can be a really interesting combination of traditional Turkish lifestyle and modern luxury. You have the sauna for a more contemporary wellness experience, and the Turkish bath brings in something very characteristic of the local culture. The bathroom design is also clearly positioned at the luxury end of the market. And with 4 ensuite bedrooms, you don't have the typical situation where everyone in the house is sharing 1 or 2 bathrooms. That is useful for larger families. Another feature worth mentioning is the full smart home infrastructure. Now I always tell buyers not to get distracted by the phrase smart home. Ask what is actually included. Smart lighting, heating controls, security, curtains, air conditioning, remote access. The important thing isn't simply that a property is described as smart. The important question is what systems are actually installed and what they can control. In this villa, the infrastructure has been prepared for a comprehensive smart home system, which gives the future owners the opportunity to manage different aspects of the property more efficiently. And that becomes particularly useful in a large villa, because the larger the property, the more important centralized control becomes. There are also some less glamorous features here that I actually think buyers should pay close attention to. The villa has a 2,000-liter water storage tank. It also has a wastewater drainage system connected to the main sewer line, and there is a dedicated private parking. These aren't features that usually make a thumbnail, but they are important when you are buying a permanent home. A luxury villa isn't only about the kitchen, pool, and bathrooms. You need to think about the infrastructure. Cooling, parking, storage, drainage, internet, security. These are the things that affect your daily life. So who is this villa actually for? First, families looking to relocate to Antalya and wanting a large permanent home. If you have children and want separate bedrooms, outdoor space, a pool, and plenty of living area, this type of property makes a lot of sense. Second, it could suit buyers who are moving from a villa or larger house abroad and don't want to downsize dramatically when moving to Turkey. Third, it could work for someone looking for a second home in Antalya, where the property itself becomes part of the holiday experience. And finally, it's potentially suitable for buyers who privacy and quality for them are a priority than being directly on the coast. It's also very suitable for daily rent income, short time or holiday home, because you don't have neighbors. Getting lessons is very easy and it can generate really high income. But I want to make one thing clear. I wouldn't recommend buying a villa like this simply because it looks impressive on video. You need to make sure the location matches your lifestyle. Now, what should you consider before you buy in Döşemealtı? If you are considering Döşemealtı, here are some questions I would want you to answer before making an offer. Number 1. How often do you need to go to the coast or city center? If you are commuting every day, your experience will be different from someone working remotely or spending most of their time at home. 2. Do you actually want a large property? 360 square meters sound fantastic, and it is, but a larger property also means more cleaning, maintenance, heating, cooling, and general upkeep. 3. How important is rental demand to you? If your primary goal is investment, do not assume that the most luxurious property automatically produces the best investment return. Luxury villas and investment properties are two different products. You need to look at purchase price, rental demand, occupancy, operating costs, and the profile of potential tenants. But if your priority is living quality, the calculation is different. You may be willing to pay more for privacy, space, a pool, a garden, and better finishes because you are buying a lifestyle, not just yield. And that is one of the most important distinctions I make when advising buyers. Now we have a very important question. Is this better than buying near the beach? This is probably one of the biggest questions foreign buyers have. And the answer is it depends on what you want. Some people buy near the beach and they go to the sea maybe once or twice a year. So if you want to wake up, walk to the beach, have coffee at a cafe, and have restaurants and shops immediately around you, then a coastal location may be better. But if you want to wake up to more space, enjoy your own pool, have a large garden, park your car privately, and have a quieter residential environment, then a villa in an area like Döşemealtı can make much more sense. You are not really comparing two identical products. You are comparing two different lifestyles. And that's why I always recommend the buyers spend time in the neighborhood before buying. Drive around, visit at different times of the day, check your commute, look at nearby services, and most importantly, imagine yourself living there, not just visiting for 30 minutes during a property viewing. Now let's talk about my opinion on this property. From a design and specification perspective, this is clearly a property aimed at buyers who want space, privacy, modern architecture, and a high level of comfort. The combination of 360 square meters of living space, a 490 square meters plot, 4 in-suite bedrooms, a 65 square meters private pool, a large garden, sauna, private Turkish bath, underfloor heating, quality European plants, high ceilings, smart home infrastructure, private parking, and substantial storage and utility infrastructure makes this much more than a standard villa. But the right question is this a beautiful villa? Clearly it is. The right question is this the right villa for me? And that depends on your lifestyle, your budget, how often you need the city center or coast, whether you are buying for yourself or investment, and how much space you actually need. And that is exactly where local advice can make a difference. And if you want personal advice about buying or moving to Antalya, you will find my contact information in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.